Hey everybody, Jamie Thomas with you for the check-in here on Saturday, November 16th. Big game tonight in Sunrise, Florida. The Winnipeg Jets taking on the Florida Panthers, the final game of their three-game road trip, of course, coming off that 4-1 loss in Tampa Bay the other night on Thursday. Slow start for the Jets on that one. They were down 3-0, got a great goal from Adam Lowry to get them back in the hockey game, but the Tampa Bay Lightning playing a pretty good game against the Jets. So it's back to the drawing board, and the Winnipeg Jets looking to get a win over top of the Florida Panthers, the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. And you know what? Sometimes you have to hype things up a little bit, and I'm going to do just that as I show you a great video from the National Hockey League for their hype video for this evening's game. Sorry. Let's take a look at that right now.
Stop. He's in for Kyle Connor. Shankly scores! Now an opening for Nicola Ehlers. Scores! Snaps it out, front of the net. Loose puck. Lowry scores! Connor waits, fires, and scores!
If I could have one thing more, it'd be for the Winnipeg Jets to win the next Stanley Cup.
All right, that was excellent. So today, Sarah Orlesky's not going to join me because Sarah's in Toronto with her daughter. They're going to go see Taylor Swift. And I thought for the question today, I was going to ask you what your favorite Taylor Swift song was, but I have changed directions because of what happened last night with the Tyson-Paul fight, which was, let's just call it unmitigated disaster. Did not live up to the hype at all. So my question of the day to you before I bring in Paul Edmonds from CJOB is, will the Jets and Panthers live up to the hype? And we're hoping for that because it is an excellent matchup against the defending Stanley Cup champions and the top team in the National Hockey League in the Winnipeg Jets. So as I have mentioned to you about what's coming up today, we have our guests. Paul Edmonds coming up momentarily from his hotel room in Florida. And Elliotte Friedman will join me up a little bit later from Sportsnet. That game, of course, is going to be on Hockey Night in Canada. And, of course, the game, you can listen to it, CJOB and Power 97 here in Winnipeg. On top of that, a special treat for you taking in the show today. We have a ticket giveaway. On Tuesday, it is the second game of the home and home. The Florida Panthers will be here in Winnipeg. I'll have the password for you, or the code word for you. The link will be in the chat here momentarily. The password or code word will be on the chat group or coming up after my interview with Paul Edmonds. So looking forward to that as we take a look down the way of what's going on. Everybody's coming in. Just nice to see a lot of people joining the show. And without further ado, I'm going to bring in my dear friend Paul Edmonds, who is ready for the big game here tonight against the Florida Panthers. And Paul, we heard Paul Maurice saying what he said after the Panthers won the Stanley Cup last year. What did you think of that when it happened? And do you still have some, good thoughts about it as these two teams face each other here tonight?
Well, thanks for having me on. First off, you're doing a tremendous job, and love the whole hype and the thing. And yes, I got, like many people, sucked into that fight last night, and
it was so bad.
Oh, it was really bad. I just kept thinking, like, the first round was okay.
Yeah,
kind of they got warmed up, felt each other out a little bit, but then once Roy Jones Jr. started talking about Tyson's legs, that's all I started watching, and he didn't move. But yet I kept thinking as rounds 4, 5, 6, 7 were going on, maybe there's going to be one punch here that's going to end this fight. And that's what we're all waiting for, is that one punch, and it never happened. I should have punched myself in the head and just gone to bed after round 1 or after the two females fought, which was a tremendous fight on the undercard just before that main event. But I digress. At first squint, I thought, well, that's great. I mean, it tells you the impact that Paul had in the city, and certainly the city had on Paul and the years that he was the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets. But I also thought, well, you just won the Stanley Cup. doesn't your organization want to try to repeat? That was the first thing that I thought. But I knew where it was coming from. It came from an honest place from Paul, and he had great memories there. And certainly it was a place also where I think it kind of resurrected his career. Remember, things didn't go very well in Toronto, and then he ended up over in the KHL, and then he was doing some studio work on television, and he got an opportunity back in the National Hockey League, and I think he appreciated that. And after he left the Jets and ended up kind of ice fishing for the rest of the winter and then getting the job with Florida, he was much appreciative of, I think, what went on in the city and in the province for him and his family. And I think that's why he genuinely mentioned that he thought that the Winnipeg Jets would maybe, for him, would be a great heir apparent to his championship from last year.
Well, it certainly sets up a great matchup tonight, Paul. And I follow up what happened in Tampa the other night. It looked like the Tampa Bay Lightning were ready for the Jets, flat out. They played a great hockey game. But what we've seen from the Jets so far this year, and we haven't seen a whole lot of downs in this season, but the response, the bounce back. And that's where I go, like, what are you expecting from them tonight after, I don't want to say a substandard letter, just a great game by the Lightning overall?
Yeah, the Lightning were in the Jets' face, and they pressured them all over the ice, particularly on the penalty kill or on the Jets' power play. So Winnipeg, I think, is probably going to be ready to see a lot more of that as they go along this year, because there's no secrets on video, right, JT?
Yeah, that's right.
So everybody's going to look and say, well, how did Toronto and how did Tampa beat the Jets? Well, for me, the one outlier would be Toronto, because the Jets didn't have it that night and they had played a lot of hockey. They had some try against certainly Tampa. Tampa was rested and ready for them. So this will be another sort of scenario that way. I think that, the Jets are a team that has some I guess, interest level from everybody to kind of assess their own game, but also a target on their back. So, Winnipeg tonight, the interesting part, I heard a great quote today. Don't adjust your game for your opposition. So It's two teams tonight that haven't played very well in the last game for the Jets and for the last couple of games for Florida. Winnipeg liked parts of their game their last time out against Tampa, but they're going to really try to respond favorably as they did off that Toronto game. And Florida's going to try to respond after a couple of losses at home, including one where they got waxed pretty good by New Jersey. So this sets up a really interesting matchup. The pressure points will be interesting to see how the Jets handle those tonight, because this is going to be a very similar game to what we saw on Thursday night for the Jets against Tampa. They're going to be pressured up the ice, or Winnipeg. They're going to have to skate through probably some clogging of the neutral ice. So let's see how Winnipeg does a better job of maneuvering through what they already know is coming this evening against the Panthers.
Paul, the Jets had a lot of great games last year on a 110-point season, but one of their best games was in Sunrise, Florida, when they shut out the Panthers 3-0. One of the guys that's always been key to this roster is Josh Morris. He's playing game number 600. And, I mean, you've been with this team a long time. Can you believe we're at 600 already? And where else can Josh Morrissey go after 600 games tonight?
Well, another 400 for sure, I think, and I always remember Josh being the 13th pick overall in 2013. So he's always kind of going to have that moniker around him. Let's not forget that you also have Morgan Barron playing game number 200 of his National League career tonight. And just as a shameless plug, he's our guest on the pregame show on 680 CJOB to talk a little bit about that. And it was great, actually. He talked about his first game being in COVID. For the Rangers, they were out of it. He couldn't even have his family come down because nobody could really cross the border. So it was kind of an interesting story, and you can hear that coming up. But Josh Morrissey's been everything to the Winnipeg Jets. I recently opined a commentary saying that this is a year that he should get more consideration for Norris Trophy as the Jets or as the NHL's best defenseman. I mean, he's in that category for me. It's been years of progression for him. To add on to what's already in his arsenal, and that's an offensive game. He learned the game the right way as a defenseman to come in, to learn to defend first. And he played with Dustin Byfuglien, so he was very reliable in allowing Buff to be a freelancer all over the ice like he liked to play. And then he started to add layers to his offensive game. And he's just dynamite at the blue line with that east-west move that he has and the slipperiness that he has. He and Neil Pionk are leading the team in defenseman scoring. The defense is anchored by Josh, and this is a team that also leads the league in points by defensemen, second in goals to Buffalo of all teams. So you look for that to continue as Josh Morrissey goes along here. The other thing that's interesting too is he doesn't shy away from the body contact. He's very physical. He also leads the team in shot blocks. I mean, you have to have a little bit of a medal of valor to pin on you when you go and do that in the National Hockey League, because everybody has to do that as well these days, but especially your offensive guys when you see them blocking shots and they become those two-way players. So Josh has a lot of runway still to go for me with the Winnipeg Jets and in his National Hockey League career. But he's been a treat to watch for the 600 games over his career so far, and there's many, many more to go. And, I think that he'll continue to make more of an impact, not only with his team, but in this league as he goes along and gets to 7 and 8 and 9 and presumably 1,000 games.
Before I let you go, it was, Sunrise, Florida the Panthers came under a lot of criticism. Hockey fans there, the building wasn't full. Now that the Panthers are like a Stanley Cup contender and a defending champion now this year, can you tell our fans, the people watching today and listening, what's it like? What's the atmosphere like in Sunrise, Florida?
Well, I remember the days where it was family and friends here. Like literally, the building was pretty empty, and it was kind of sad to see. And you wondered, economically how long this could survive. And in talking to some people around the Panthers organization today, they are sold out of their allotment of season tickets. They've got a brand new practice facility. Hockey is alive and well in South Florida, made better because they've had a competitive team and some star power. But this will be a good game tonight. And this building will be rocking. I think that it's going to kind of give Tampa a bit of its rival, certainly not just from the state of Florida, but Tampa's always been a great hockey market going back to the days when they won a cup too with John Tortorella. Now it's just kind of filtered down here a little further south by 3 hours. It will be a very good atmosphere. Winnipeg will have a good test, but the other part of that is, conversely, the Panthers will be tested by the Jets tonight. Should be a really good game.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate you taking the time. It looks like you got some sun, some well-deserved sun, and we'll talk to you when you get back home.
It's just spray on out of a bottle. See, JT.
Well, I love the hue that you use this time. So
yes.
See you, Paul.
I use an aerosol now. Yeah. See you, buddy.
Take care. That's Paul Edmonds joining us from Florida, and what a great vacation that must be for everybody. I know it's a business trip, of course, when you're playing in Florida and Tampa Bay, but it's hard not to be part of the sun. So as promised, we are giving away tickets today to the return matchup between the Florida Panthers and the Winnipeg Jets. That game will be here at Canada Life Center on Tuesday, November 19th. So I promised you that the code word would pop up, and that code word, my friends, as soon as I remove this from the screen, is Showdown. Showdown. The link is in the chat room. Enter now, and we'll announce the winner of tickets to the game between the Florida Panthers and the Winnipeg Jets, which will be tremendous as Canada Life Center celebrates their 20th anniversary. So a big day that way. There is the link. I just see it pop in there again, just in case you guys are asking. As we go through this, Point Street came to an end the other day. In the beginning part of this road trip, it was just the power play goal from Gabriel Velarde, set up by Nikolai Ehlers, was one of the best goals I've seen this year. So it actually comes at perfect timing with the podcast that just came out yesterday. Ground Control, new podcast. Gabriel Velarde is our guest, and it's another side of Gabe. I had a friend of mine tell me, well, he just seems kind of like disinterested in interviews, and I'm like, that's not really what he is. He just doesn't really like talking about himself. But we had a great time on the podcast here. Here's as I share a little part of the podcast that happened the other night. Let's hear a little bit from Gabe Velarde.
You like to have chocolate before the game. Where did that come from, and where did you decide to do that, and what was it all about?
It's not like I'm eating Kit Kat.
Yeah, like
during the game or something.
No,
like that.
So not between periods and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you want the science behind it, it's pure fat. It's 90% dark chocolate, so it's good fats for you. That's good energy. You want to run off fat and proteins, and then another thing is it's good for the brain, opens a lot of the neurotransmitters. And, sometimes I think so much of the game is mental, actually. So, if I feel like if I can get the edge mentally and anyway, I'll try it out. So I tried it out during the preseason, the first few games in camp, and I liked it, and I've been kind of sticking with it.
There's Gabriel Velarde in the podcast. Hold on a second. Remove that. And so Gabe Velarde, it was great. He talked about his new dog that he has, just the enjoyment that he has from playing with Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. And I found it very interesting that this year he feels truly comfortable in his own skin as a member of the Winnipeg Jets because of the fact that, remember last year, his first year in Winnipeg, he was hurt 3 games in, very challenging for him to get comfortable. And now that he's comfortable, you've seen the fruits of that labor, and he's been fantastic so far. If you're just tuning in, we are giving away tickets to the game Tuesday here at Canada Life Center against the Florida Panthers. The code word is there. It's Showdown. The link is in there. And Matt, I appreciate you. Sarah, I appreciate that. Sarah is in Toronto watching Taylor Swift. And also, if you don't recognize the studio, we are not in the studio because Disney on Ice is here. Apparently, Anna and Elsa are taking up our podcast studio, so many thanks to them. Coming up here momentarily, our good friend Elliotte Friedman will be joining us in about 4 minutes' time to talk about the Jets, which will be on Sportsnet/Hockey Night in Canada here tonight. The NHL's got, I guess, apparently they're miking up some of the players. They're really interested in this battle. Of course, they should be. The defending Stanley Cup champions, and of course, the Jets are first in the NHL. How about Winnipeg and many other, still top of the standings? But the fact is, the Minnesota Wild are just hanging over top, right behind them in the Central Division standings. And you think about the winning streaks the Jets have had, the fact they've only lost twice this year, and there's Minnesota just breathing over top of their shoulders. And it does. We've talked about many times about how competitive the Central Division is going to be this year. You go in those long win streaks and you just can't seem to get away from them. James, I appreciate that. Elsa is my personal enemy, by the way. She kicked us out of our podcast studio last year when I was doing a pod with Brad Lambert. So it's back-to-back years that I've been punted by Disney. So that's I appreciate your support in that department. Again, the code word for the ticket giveaway is Showdown. Looking forward to that. And just wondering what your guys' thoughts are. I put it up a little bit earlier. The question of the day is, will the Jets and Panthers live up to the hype? Do you guys think this game is going to live up to the hype? Because it's been built up all week long, and you've seen the quote from Paul Maurice after the Panthers won the Stanley Cup that he hoped that the Jets would win the Stanley Cup this year. I'm sure many of you are hoping the exact same thing. But it's just how exciting this game is going to be tonight. I'm sure it's going to be a lot better than Tyson and Paul last night as we all got sucked in waiting for that fight to happen. I don't know if you guys had problems. I got punted many times. I couldn't get to the fight a lot of times. They would start it all over again. And I saw a lot of the raging going on Twitter about the disappointment that everybody had, and especially with that. Yes, I will not sing my favorite Frozen song. It would be you. That's a good point. They might allow me in the studio if I went right back in there and started singing. I'm like, this guy's on board. But I have seen Disney on Ice. It's actually pretty cool, but my kids are all too old for that now. Tamara says the hype is real. Let's go. I appreciate that. John saying, yeah, let Jets win the cup this year. I appreciate that as well. How about this? My daughter will be at the game. Other daughter was in Tampa for the loss. We need a win. Listen, you have some committed daughters. What a frog. That's just great. And Jet centric. What do you have to say today? Really want Jets to win tonight because the game at home will be even crazier. Just think of the last time the Jets were at home against Dallas. You guys were fantastic. The fans were unreal on that Saturday afternoon. I haven't heard the building that loud for a regular season game. Clearly in the playoffs, that's a completely different story. But the atmosphere was fantastic. And I know the Bombers were playing in the West Final that afternoon, so that had everybody going as well. So you think about how exciting the city was that day, and I just think about the Jets coming back. They win this game, they have a chance to sweep the home and home with Florida. They've swept the last 2 season series, against the Panthers this year. And as I was saying with Paul Edmonds, the Jets played one of their best road games last year when they shut out Florida 3-0. And I remember Nikolai Ehlers. You could argue that was the goal of the year for the Winnipeg Jets. And we've seen Nikolai Ehlers do so many of those end-to-end rushes, but that was one of my favorite ones that he had all year. Matt Hyman weighing in with keep the streak versus Pomo's Panthers going, go Jets go. And then just wondering out loud, can the Jets get back in the win column? They've just been so good at bouncing back from games. So I mean, we can go with 2 games this year. That's the crazy part for the Jets this year, is we can only nitpick 2 really bad games. And I the slow start against the Leafs, but then they made a game of it at the end. And then you talk with Mason Appleton afterwards, the next day before they're going to play against the Detroit Red Wings on the road, and you could tell that they were ready to bounce back, and they did. They had a huge win in Detroit. They were all over the Red Wings. It was over after the first period. And then after the game against Colorado, which they won 1-0, you're wondering where Colorado took over the final 2 periods. And that's where you're going, okay, what's going to happen here after Colorado really took it to them? But it was Connor Hellebuck stealing the show in that game. And what happens? They come out the next game against Dallas, and it was over after 2 periods, 4-0. Winnipeg jumps out the lead to give it that late goal, or else it would have been another shutout for Connor Hellebuck. And I wonder again, that's a good question. Will Paul Maurice get another standing ovation when he comes back to Winnipeg on Tuesday? So just keep in mind, we're going to give away the tickets here momentarily, waiting for Elliotte Friedman to grow in. I'm just going to text him while we go to this and go, hey, buddy, what the heck is going on here? And we'll see if he responds. Ready to go? This is the benefit of the problem when you don't have a co-host such as Sarah to rag the puck a little bit while I'm waiting to see if a guest is going to join us. So we're going to wait here momentarily to give away those tickets. That'll be coming up. Showdown is the password. What are the things you guys looking forward to? What do you think the first period is going to be like? Do you think the Jets are going to be ready to go and get on top of everybody right away and get on top of the Panthers, take the crowd out? I see 4-3 Jets for a prediction tonight. I see 7-4 Jets. Junior saying, come on, Jets. This is great stuff. Jamie Wright, Kenny Weeb to stay hydrated. I don't know if Ken's been on. Of course, Ken finds his way on this road trip, right? The Florida road trip part of the year. He might need some hydration after being in that sun all week long. 9-8. Wow. All right. And I got a good friend. He is looking like he's ready to go. He likes to make me sweat, and he does a great job of it. There is Elliotte Friedman joining me from, where are you right now? The home office?
No, I'm at the studio. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you sweat, Jamie.
Yeah.
It's Saturday. It's a bit crazy.
I know, totally. And I really appreciate you. I'll get you going right away. So I'm going to give you a bunch of true or false questions. True or false?
Okay.
The Winnipeg, Florida game will be 100 times better than Tyson Paul.
True.
Can you give me a reason why? I should have said that as well.
More punches thrown. I'll say that.
True or false? Preseason predictions suck.
They do suck, but not because of the reasons you think. They suck because I hate making predictions, not because they're a bad idea.
Right. And truly, they are a great idea. But where do you find people start weighing in when you do a preseason prediction as the year goes along? Is it all year long where they said, Elliotte, you said this, or is it right away from the beginning part of the year? And I'm thinking maybe Jets fans might be weighing a little bit with the start that they've had so far.
You know what? I find that, Jamie, it depends on the person. Like, I've had people who said, you said this 5 years ago. Like, if people hear something they don't like, they never let go of it. It gets used against you for the rest of your existence. But look at that. I will say this. The one thing I'm happy about is I was not down on the Jets this year. So it's one of the few predictions I actually got right.
They've been great. True or false? Video replay is slowing down the game right now.
It is right now. I mean, you can't argue that. And that's why I think one of the things they talked about at the GM meetings were what is the future of this? They want ideas. And, the one thing I'll say about this, Jamie, is that night, like Toronto, Washington, thank God those don't happen too often.
Right.
And I'm a get the call right guy, like get the call right. But this week was a tough week.
Now, okay, we'll get away from the true and false questions. Your co-host on 32 Thoughts, Kyle Bukauskas, was on the ice interviewing Paul Maurice last year about winning the Stanley Cup. And he made the comment, I would really like the Winnipeg Jets to win the Stanley Cup next year. That's paraphrasing. What did you think of that comment when it was made? And now how does that build into today's game with the Jets and Florida Panthers, which will be on Sportsnet/Hockey Night in Canada?
Well, I mean, I thought it was a great thing for him to say. Like, just think about it. Like Paul Maurice, Jamie's whole career, his whole life has been about trying to win the Stanley Cup. And you finally get there after all these years. And that's one of the first things out of his mouth. I think it's a great comment. I think that I can't remember who's the name of the public address announcer in Winnipeg.
Now I'm embarrassed. He's got great pipes too, and I'm just trying to think. Just go on the story while it comes to me.
What they should do is on Tuesday night in the rematch, they should say we welcome the 2024 Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers against your 2025 Stanley Cup champion Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah,
and just introduce the game that way. That's what
Jay Richardson. Jay Richardson is the PA announcer. Thanks, Gregory and Waiters. I appreciate that.
That's what Jay should do. I mean, look. I watched the game the other night against Tampa. That's going to happen. Nobody's expecting you guys to go 81-1, but you've banked the points. The team looks really good. Hellebuck. When Hellebuck is Hellebuck, the Jets they go like that, right? And he's Hellebuck right now. And I just believe Kevin Cheveldayoff's history. When the team is good, he says, "What do we need?" and he goes out and gets it. So the way they look now, I don't think this is the way they're going to look like when it's all over.
Last one for you. When the offseason goes the way it does, and there's all those additions for various teams in the Central Division, have you got to realize or understand and appreciate Kevin Cheveldayoff when he doesn't make a big splash because he doesn't have to in some ways?
Well, you know what? I've said this about him before. I think he generally makes good decisions. The thing about a general manager is, if you make, let's just say you make 20 decisions, 5 of them are going to be great and 5 of them are not going to work out, right? And so the question is, how much do you win the other 10? And I think for the most part, he makes really good decisions. And the other thing I think about Winnipeg that has proven to me before is that when you guys are going well, players stay and players will go there. So things are going well, and I think he'll take advantage of that.
I really appreciate your time, my friend. And I know it's always busy on Saturday. It's really awesome that you did that. So thanks so much for taking the time, and have fun watching the game tonight.
Oh, I'll be watching.
Yeah, how can you not? And I'm sure everybody, lots of eyes from the NHL will be watching as well. Appreciate it, Elliotte.
All right, buddy. Take care, Jamie.
All the best. Elliotte Friedman joining me from a quick moment on, of course, Hockey Night in Canada coming up here this evening. And listen, so I have 2 winners to announce for the tickets on Tuesday against the Florida Panthers. Winner number 1, Larry Hayes, is winner number 1. And number 2, Jodine Crisco. So we'll be contacting the both of you coming up to let you know, and we'll see you on Tuesday as the Jets take on the Florida Panthers. And listen, I'm so happy that this many people have tuned into the show. I know it's kind of a bummer when Sarah's not here, but we do the best we can. She chose Taylor Swift over top of us, but she'll be back on Tuesday. We'll have some great guests. Larry and Jodine, congratulations. You've won the tickets to Tuesday's game against the Florida Panthers. Everybody, enjoy the game tonight, 6 o'clock. It's going to be on Sportsnet/Hockey Night in Canada. And make sure you listen on Power 97/CJOB with Paul Edmonds and Mitchell Clinton. On behalf of myself, of course, Elliotte Friedman and Paul Edmonds, enjoy the afternoon, everybody, and enjoy the game tonight. We'll see you soon.